The Silent Exodus. Chief Archaeologist Zirovex adjusted her atmospheric suit sensors as she stood before the towering ruins of New Shanghai. The crystalline spires of the abandoned human metropolis stretched toward the orange sky, their surfaces dulled by 3 decades of neglect. Behind her, the rest of the Galactic Heritage Foundation team carefully unpacked their equipment, their movements deliberate in Earth's heavier gravity. Primary atmospheric reading stabilized, announced Krell, their environmental specialist. The bulky Centaurian's outer membrane flickered with patterns of cautious optimism. No signs of biological or chemical hazards. It's as sterile as the last 6 sites. Zirovex nodded, her inner eyelids blinking in sequence as she processed the information. The mystery of humanity's disappearance had haunted the galaxy for a generation. Their sudden withdrawal had left a power vacuum that threatened to destabilize the careful balance between the remaining spacefaring civilizations. "Deploy the temporal scanners," she ordered, her translator converting her native clicks into standard galactic common. "Focus on the governmental district. If there's any trace of what triggered the exodus, we'll find it there." The team spread out across the abandoned plaza, their equipment humming softly in the eerie silence. The wind whistled through empty streets that once bustled with millions of humans. Signs in dozens of Earth languages hung askew from buildings, advertising products and services to consumers who would never return. First Officer Nautix, a veteran of the Proximan Defense Force, kept his hand near his particle disruptor as he led the security detail. "Something feels wrong about this place," he muttered, his facial tendrils twitching. "It's too intact." He was right. Unlike other abandoned cities they'd studied across the galaxy, New Shanghai showed no signs of panic or conflict. It was as if the entire population had simply walked away from their lives in perfect order. "Director," called out Dr. Helix 9, their quantum historian. The artificial being's photonic matrix pulsed with excitement. "I'm detecting significant temporal anomalies centered on the Shanghai Administrative Complex." Zirovex hurried over to examine the readings. The massive structure before them had once housed the Earth's Eastern Hemisphere Coordination Center. Its windows reflected the setting sun like billions of watchful eyes. "These patterns," she murmured, "they're consistent with controlled dimensional manipulation. Far beyond anything humanity had officially achieved before the Exodus." As the team approached the building's entrance, their equipment began detecting more anomalies. The security doors had been left unlocked, another departure from standard human protocols. Inside, the vast atrium was immaculate, preserved by automated maintenance systems that continued their endless tasks. "Look at this," Nautix called out, gesturing to a large display screen that still drew power from the city's fusion grid. The screen showed a countdown clock, frozen at 0, with text in every human language scrolling beneath it. Dr. Helix 9 interfaced with the system, its crystalline fingers extending into the computer ports. The last update to this system was made exactly 1 hour before the recorded start of the Exodus. "It appears to be a warning." Zirovex felt her scales bristle. "Can you decode it?" Translating now, the quantum historian responded. "It reads, to all non-human entities, this facility has been decommissioned as per Protocol Omega. Further attempts to access restricted data will activate automated defense systems. Humanity thanks you for your past cooperation and requests continued respect for our privacy." The team exchanged uneasy glances. In their previous expeditions, they'd encountered similar messages, each more cryptic than the last. But this was the first time they'd found one that hinted at active security measures. As they delved deeper into the complex, they discovered more signs of humanity's methodical departure. Officers' desks had been cleaned and organized. Files had been systematically erased or encrypted. In the facility's vast archive, rows of quantum storage units sat empty, their contents presumably transferred elsewhere before the Exodus. "Director," Krell called out, his voice trembling. "You need to see this." In a sealed chamber deep within the complex, they found a holographic projection showing Earth and its colonies. One by one, dots of light representing human settlements winked out, not in chaos, but in perfect synchronization. The recording ended with a final message: Phase 1 complete. Phase 1? Nautix whispered. What was Phase 1? Ziravex studied the projection, her scientific mind racing with possibilities. Whatever humanity was preparing for, they had been planning it for years, maybe decades. This wasn't an evacuation or an escape. It was an evolution. As if in response to her words, the building systems suddenly hummed to life. Screens flickered on throughout the complex, each displaying the same message: warning, Protocol Omega monitoring active. Please vacate the premises. We need to leave, Nautix urged, already ushering the team toward the exit. Whatever humanity left behind to guard their secrets, I don't think we want to meet it. As they retreated from the complex, Ziravex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Not by automated systems, but by humanity itself. Somewhere beyond their understanding, an entire species was waiting, watching, preparing for something that had driven them to abandon everything they had built. Back aboard their ship, as New Shanghai disappeared behind them, Ziravex began her report to the Galactic Council. The evidence was clear: humanity hadn't fled in fear or admission of defeat. They had withdrawn with purpose, with a plan. And somehow, that was far more terrifying than any chaos they might have left behind. Recommendation, she dictated: all further expeditions to human territories should be suspended immediately. Whatever drove humanity to enact Protocol Omega, they wanted to ensure no one would follow. Perhaps, for the sake of all remaining civilizations, we should honor their wishes. As she finished her report, a final automated message from the surface flashed across their communications array: thank you for your visit. Remember, curiosity has consequences. The message didn't need translation. Some mysteries, it seemed, were meant to remain unsolved. Humanity had made their choice, and the galaxy would have to live with the uncertainty of never knowing why. Echoes of power. Grand Ambassador Thelvor of the Centaurian Collective stood before the Emergency Council of Allied Species, his ceremonial robes doing little to hide his agitation. The council chamber, carved from a single asteroid in neutral space, hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 17 spacefaring civilizations waited for his report. The findings from the New Shanghai expedition are troubling, he began, his translator struggling to convey the complex harmonics of his distress. What we initially dismissed as a simple withdrawal appears to be something far more calculated. Holographic displays materialized around the chamber, showing footage from the archaeological team's expedition. The pristine abandonment of human cities drew murmurs of concern from the assembled delegates. High Chancellor Lyra of the Proximan Alliance rose from her gravity throne, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with worry. You speak of calculation, Ambassador, but what of the final embassy? What of Ambassador Richardson's last words to this very council? The chamber fell silent. None present could forget that day, 30 years ago, when the last human diplomat had addressed them. Richardson had been different from his predecessors, calmer, almost amused, as if sharing a private joke with an audience that couldn't possibly understand the punchline. Let me share something that wasn't included in the public records, Thelvor said, activating his personal data crystal. A new hologram appeared, Richardson standing alone in the council chamber after the formal session had ended. The human's voice echoed through the present-day chamber: you know, it's funny. For centuries, you all watched us fight among ourselves, colonize our solar system, develop faster-than-light travel. You saw us as primitive, violent, unpredictable. But you never asked the right questions. You never wondered why we pushed so hard, so fast. Why we seemed to be racing against a clock only we could see. Present-day council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats as Richardson's recorded figure smiled, that same knowing smile that had haunted their memories for 3 decades. We found something in our quantum experiments, the recording continued. Something that changed everything. And when we tried to warn you, you dismissed it as human paranoia. So we made a choice. Sometimes the best way to protect everyone is to remove yourself from the equation. The hologram flickered out, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. There's more, Thelvor announced. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected anomalies. The barrier humanity erected around their former territories isn't just a shield, it's changing. Growing stronger. More complex. Supreme Archon Zwexval of the Rigelian technocracy activated her neural interface. We've analyzed the barrier's energy signature. It bears striking similarities to theoretical models of dimensional reinforcement. It's as if humanity isn't just hiding behind it, they're preparing to prevent something from breaking through. But what? Demanded War Chief Kthok of the Orion clans, his massive form towering over the other delegates. What could be so terrible that an entire species would choose to quarantine themselves? Before anyone could respond, every screen in the chamber activated simultaneously. Static resolved into a familiar symbol, the United Earth Government seal. A message scrolled across the displays in all known languages. Protocol Omega status update, Phase 2 initiated. Warning to all species, detection of interdimensional breach attempts has increased by 47% in the past solar cycle. The barrier holds. Do not attempt to penetrate or disable it. Your survival may depend on its integrity. Panic erupted in the chamber. Delegates shouted questions and demands, their translators creating a cacophony of overlapping languages. Through the chaos, Thelvor noticed Supreme Archon Zwexval accessing restricted files through her neural interface. Ambassador, she called out, her synthetic voice cutting through the noise. I've been analyzing historical data. In the decades before the Exodus, human quantum research facilities increased exponentially. Their power consumption patterns suggest they weren't developing weapons or drives, they were building sensors. As if they were looking for something nobody else could see. High Chancellor Lyra's bioluminescence had shifted to deep ultraviolet, a sign of profound fear in her species. The human expression, ignorance is bliss, comes to mind. Perhaps they discovered something that made isolation preferable to continued interaction with the galaxy at large. War Chief Kthok slammed his ceremonial axe against the chamber floor. We cannot simply accept this. The humans held strategic positions throughout known space. Their withdrawal has left us vulnerable to... To what? Thelvor interrupted. What exactly do you think we're vulnerable to, War Chief? Something tells me humanity didn't leave us exposed, they created a buffer between us and whatever they discovered. The chamber's quantum sensors suddenly registered a massive energy spike from the direction of former human space. The barrier, visible from their location as a faint iridescent shimmer among the stars, pulsed with new intensity. A final message flashed across the screens, dimensional integrity test complete. Barrier strength increased to compensate for detected anomalies. Continue your lives. Continue your progress. But do not follow us. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed again. As the council descended into heated debate about their next course of action, Thelvor found himself drawn to the chamber's observation dome. The barrier shimmered in the distance, a testament to humanity's final gift to the galaxy, or perhaps their final warning. They're not just hiding, he whispered to himself. They're standing guard. The realization sent a chill through his central nervous system. Humanity, in all its chaotic, violent, brilliant complexity, had appointed themselves guardians against something they refused to name. And somehow, that unnamed threat seemed far more terrifying than any war, any conflict, any disaster the galaxy had yet faced. As the council argued behind him, Thelvor made a decision. He would recommend that the Centaurian Collective follow humanity's last request. Some mysteries weren't meant to be solved. Some doors weren't meant to be opened. And some sacrifices, it seemed, were made not out of fear, but out of a terrible responsibility that only one species had been willing to accept. The barrier's secret. Research vessel, Quantum Seeker, drifted at the edge of human territory, its advanced sensors probing the iridescent barrier that had become the galaxy's greatest scientific mystery. The ship's quantum arrays hummed as they attempted to map the barrier's ever-changing structure. Lead scientist Nexus Rull watched the readings with all four of her eyes, her crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the holographic displays surrounding her station. After 6 months of observation, the barrier still defied conventional analysis. Energy patterns shifting again, reported Senior Technician Vorkath, his serpentine form coiled around his workstation. Just like yesterday, it's as if the barrier is learning. Not learning, Nexus corrected, manipulating the data streams with practiced precision. Adapting. There's a difference. Whatever humanity created here, it's not just a shield. It's an evolving system. The bridge of the Quantum Seeker fell silent save for the steady pulse of monitoring equipment. Their mission, officially sanctioned by the Emergency Council despite Ambassador Thelvor's warnings, was to understand the barrier's fundamental nature. Unofficially, they were looking for a way through. Commander Lyra Vex, daughter of the renowned archaeologist who had investigated New Shanghai, entered the bridge. Status report. The barrier's quantum signature is unlike anything in our databases, Nexus explained, bringing up a complex mathematical model. It doesn't just exist in our spacetime, it's somehow anchored across multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. Impossible, Vorkath hissed. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical? Nexus finished. Yes. Which begs the question, how did humanity power something of this scale? And why go to such lengths? Their discussion was interrupted by a proximity alert. A small object was approaching the barrier from the human side, the first activity they detected in months of observation. Analysis. Commander Lyra Vex ordered, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to combat readiness. The object resolved itself on their screens, a simple probe, its design unmistakably human. It stopped just short of the barrier, hovering in space. We're receiving a transmission, Vorkath announced. Text only, all frequencies. The message appeared on their main display, Greetings, Quantum Seeker. Your persistence is noted. Your curiosity is understood. But you're looking at the wrong thing. Open a channel, Commander Lyra Vex ordered. Channel open, Vorkath confirmed. This is Commander Lyra Vex of the scientific vessel Quantum Seeker. We seek peaceful contact and understanding. The probe's response was immediate, understanding is precisely what we're trying to prevent. The barrier isn't meant to keep you out. It's meant to keep something else in. Nexus felt her crystalline structure vibrate with anticipation. What are you keeping in? Wrong question, the probe replied. The correct question is, what happens in a universe where humanity never built the barrier? We've seen it. We've lived it. We chose a different path. Suddenly, the probe began transmitting data, massive amounts of it. Star charts, energy readings, dimensional coordinates. As the information flooded their systems, Nexus's analysis programs began correlating patterns. By the void, she whispered. These readings, they're showing temporal divergence points. Alternate timelines where. She stopped, her exoskeleton paling. Where what? Commander Lyra Vex demanded. Where something broke through. Where humanity failed to contain it. The devastation. Nexus couldn't continue, her voice failing as she processed the images. The probe transmitted one final message, now you understand. The barrier must hold. What lies beyond cannot be allowed to spread. We monitor. We maintain. We guard. This is our gift to existence itself, our eternal vigilance. Commander Lyravex studied the data with growing horror. These alternate timelines, they all end the same way. Total dimensional collapse. Reality itself being consumed by what exists between realities, nexus finished. The void between universes. Humanity didn't just discover it, they found a way to hold it back. They sacrificed everything to become eternal guardians against cosmic horror itself. The probe began to retreat, but not before leaving them with a final transmission: you have your answer. Now you know why we chose isolation. Why we must remain separate. The barrier is our post, our purpose, our prison, and our redemption. Leave this place. Live your lives. Enjoy your reality. We will ensure it continues to exist. As the probe disappeared into the barrier, the quantum seeker's sensors detected a massive energy surge. The barrier was changing again, becoming even more complex, more impenetrable. New encryptions detected in the barrier's quantum matrix, Vorkath reported. They've adapted it based on our presence. They're learning from our attempts to study it. Commander Lyravex stared at the shimmering wall of energy that separated them from humanity's self-imposed exile. Prepare a report for the Council. Classification level, Omega. They need to know what we've learned here. And what exactly have we learned? Vorkath asked, his scales shifting nervously. That humanity didn't abandon the galaxy, Nexus replied, still processing the probe's data. They saved it. They saw something coming, something that had already destroyed countless other realities. And rather than flee, rather than surrender, they chose to stand guard for eternity. The quantum seeker began its journey home, leaving behind the barrier and its secrets. But as they departed, every crew member understood, they weren't just leaving behind a scientific mystery. They were leaving behind an entire species that had chosen to bear an unimaginable burden, so that the rest of the galaxy could live in blissful ignorance of what lurked between the walls of reality. Their mission had sought understanding. They had found something far more profound: gratitude. Legacy of Terra. The galactic archives had never been so crowded. Representatives from every spacefaring civilization crowded the ancient halls of the repository, drawn by rumors of a breakthrough. After the quantum seeker's revelations, a joint archaeological task force had been frantically analyzing every scrap of human data left behind. Principal researcher Ixil floated in her containment field, her gaseous form swirling with patterns of intense concentration. Before her, a holographic display showed the results of 3 years of painstaking research, a pattern hidden in plain sight across thousands of human installations. It was never about military might, she announced to the assembled gathering. Every human advancement, every scientific breakthrough, every technological innovation, they were all building toward one goal: the barrier. Director Kane of the Andromedan Science Directory manipulated his mechanical limbs to inspect the data more closely. These energy signatures, they appear in human technology dating back centuries before the Exodus. Are you suggesting they planned this that far in advance? Not planned, Ixil corrected, her form pulsing with excitement. Prepared. Look at these structural readings from their quantum research facilities. Every major human installation was built on precise geometric patterns. Their entire civilization was one vast containment matrix, and we never noticed. The assembled scholars studied the evidence with growing amazement. Human cities, colonies, space stations, all positioned according to complex multidimensional equations. Their civilization hadn't just built the barrier, they had become the barrier. We've decoded more of their archived quantum communications, announced junior researcher Vextull, his insectoid appendages dancing across multiple interfaces. The humans had been detecting dimensional anomalies for centuries. Their myths, their legends, their stories of monsters and gods, they were all attempts to understand what they were sensing. The holographic display shifted to show ancient human artwork, paintings, sculptures, digital renderings. Images of creatures that defied comprehension, beings that existed between spaces, horrors that lurked just beyond perception. They knew, Ixal continued. They always knew something was wrong with reality. Their drive to explore space, to develop new technologies, it wasn't just curiosity or ambition. They were searching for answers. And when they found them, they discovered they weren't alone in the multiverse, Director Kane finished. But what they found wasn't life as we understand it. A new hologram appeared, a recovered human quantum simulation showing reality itself fraying at the edges, dimensions bleeding into one another, existence unraveling like torn fabric. The barrier isn't just technology, Ixal explained, her gaseous form condensing with intensity. It's a fundamental restructuring of spacetime itself. Humanity didn't just build a wall, they rewrote the laws of physics around their territory to create a permanent dimensional seal. The assembly erupted in discussions, theories, and arguments. The implications were staggering. An entire species had essentially removed themselves from normal spacetime to serve as eternal guardians against cosmic horror. "There's more," Vextol announced, his mandibles clicking with agitation. "We've discovered what they called the Legacy Protocol. Before the Exodus, humanity seeded every major galaxy with automated systems. They're dormant now, but if the barrier ever fails..." The room fell silent. The implications were clear, humanity had prepared for every possibility, including their own failure. "Show them," Ixal commanded. Vextol activated a final set of records. The hologram displayed a vast network of satellites, stations, and beacons scattered throughout known space, all of human design, all currently dormant. "These installations," Director Kane observed, his mechanical eyes whirring as they processed the data, "they're not weapons or shelters. They're warning systems. Humanity left behind a galaxy-wide alarm system." "And instructions," Ixal added. "If the barrier fails, if what lies beyond breaks through, these systems will activate. They'll give the galaxy a fighting chance, using everything humanity learned in their centuries of preparation." The assembled scholars stared at the evidence of humanity's final gift to the galaxy. Even in their self-imposed exile, they had thought of those they left behind. "We found this in the last data burst," Vextol said quietly, activating a final recording. A human voice, calm and clear, filled the chamber. "To those who find these records, we're sorry we couldn't tell you everything. We're sorry we had to leave. But know this, we chose this fate. We saw what had to be done, and we did it. Not out of fear, not out of desperation, but out of duty. Someone had to stand guard at the edge of reality. Someone had to keep the darkness at bay. We were uniquely suited for the role. After all, humanity has always been good at facing impossible odds. Live well. Live fully. And if you ever see the warning signs we left behind activate, run. Run far, run fast, and know that even then, we'll be fighting to give you that chance." In the silence that followed, the gathered scholars began to understand the true weight of humanity's legacy. They hadn't just left behind technology or warnings, they had left behind hope. Hope that their sacrifice would ensure the galaxy's survival, hope that their vigilance would keep reality itself intact. The barrier shimmered in the distance, visible even from the archive's observation dome. No longer a mystery to be solved, but a testament to an entire species' determination to protect existence itself, no matter the cost. The Return Protocol. 50 years after the Exodus, first speaker Miravex stood before the Galactic Conclave, a gathering that would have been impossible before humanity's departure. Former enemies sat together, united by the weight of what they now knew. The chamber, built from fragments of every member species' homeworlds, hummed with anticipation. "The motion before us is unprecedented," Miravex began, her voice carrying the same resonance that had made her grandmother, Ziravex, a legend in xenoarchaeology. "For the first time since the Exodus, we have received a direct communication request from within the barrier." The assembled representatives stirred. After decades of automated messages and warning buoys, the prospect of actual contact was both thrilling and terrifying. "Play the transmission," ordered High Chancellor Kvara of the United Systems. The chamber's holographic systems activated, and a human figure materialized in the center of the room. Unlike the recordings and archives they'd studied, this was a real-time transmission. The human wore a uniform unlike anything in their historical records, a suit that seemed to shift and flow like liquid darkness. "Greetings, Galactic Conclave," the figure said, their voice translated simultaneously into all known languages. "I am Guardian Commander Rhodes of the Dimensional Defense Force. We've monitored your progress over the past 5 decades. You've exceeded our hopes. Why contact us now?" Kvara demanded. "Why break 50 years of silence?" Rhodes's expression remained neutral, but something in their eyes spoke of countless battles fought in realms no other being could comprehend. "Because you're ready. Because you need to be ready. The void between realities is changing. Evolving. Our calculations suggest that within 1 standard century, the barrier alone will not be enough." Screens throughout the chamber displayed data streams, information about dimensional stress points, reality fractures, and concepts that defied traditional physics. The assembled representatives watched in growing horror as they began to understand the scale of what humanity had been fighting. "We didn't leave because we were afraid," Rhodes continued. "We left because we needed to become something else. Something that could stand against the void. But even that may not be enough forever. The return protocol was always part of the plan, we just hoped we'd have more time." "What exactly are you proposing?" Miravex asked, though part of her already knew the answer. "Integration," Rhodes replied. "A controlled return of human knowledge, technology, and capabilities. We've learned much behind the barrier. Become much more than we were. But we can't protect reality alone forever. The galaxy needs to be ready to stand with us." The chamber erupted in discussion. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just been hiding, they'd been evolving, preparing, becoming something new. "Show them," Rhodes commanded softly. The holographic display shifted, showing the barrier from the inside for the first time. The assembled representatives gasped. What they had thought was simply a shield was actually an impossibly vast structure of pure energy and altered spacetime. And within it, humanity had built something that defied comprehension, a civilization that existed partially outside normal reality. "This is what we became," Rhodes explained. "What we had to become. We're no longer purely physical beings. We exist simultaneously in multiple dimensional planes, allowing us to fight the void on its own terms. But we're still human. We still remember who we were. Who we fought to protect." Streams of data began flooding the conclave systems, carefully curated knowledge that humanity had gained in their dimensional exile. "This is phase 1 of the return protocol," Rhodes continued. "You'll need time to understand it, to adapt to it. But understand, this isn't just about sharing technology. It's about preparing you for what's coming." "And what exactly is coming?" Kvara asked, their voice barely a whisper. Rhodes's image flickered, showing for just a moment their true form, a being of light and shadow, existing in multiple dimensions at once. "The void is conscious. It hungers. And it's learning. We've held it back for 50 years, but it grows stronger. In time, it will take more than just humanity to keep reality intact." Miravex stepped forward. "You want us to become like you?" "No," Rhodes smiled sadly. "We want you to become what you need to be. Each species, each civilization, has unique qualities that could be essential in the battles to come. We didn't spend 50 years fighting just to turn everyone into copies of ourselves." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't just offering knowledge, they were offering partnership in the greatest battle in existence. "The choice is yours," Rhodes concluded. We'll continue our vigil regardless of your decision. But know this, everything we've done, everything we've become, was to ensure that life, in all its wonderful diversity, could continue to exist. We hope you'll join us in that mission." As the transmission ended, Miravex looked out at the assembled representatives. In their eyes, she saw fear, yes, but also determination. The legacy of humanity's sacrifice had taught them something profound, that some battles were worth any price. "The motion before the conclave," she announced, her voice strong and clear, "is to accept humanity's offer and begin preparation for the return protocol. We've spent 50 years studying their sacrifice. Perhaps it's time we proved worthy of it." The vote was unanimous. As the barrier shimmered in the distance, its light seemed different now, not a wall that separated them from humanity, but a bridge to a future where all species stood together against the darkness between realities. Humanity had chosen to become guardians. Now, the galaxy would choose to stand with them. The return protocol had begun. And with it, the next chapter in the story of existence itself.